Hey, welcome. Neil McDonnell here. We're going to get started on LinkedIn Live today. Before I do get started fully, as people are coming online, I just want to give a little tip on a post I did today. I shared a Army Program Executive Office Industry Day briefing deck, and I want to put this just in your head. A lot of tips that I share, I'm going to share them over and over and over again because they're fundamental tips. I never try to share an exceptional, wow, I've never heard that before kind of tip. I want to share the things that are the basic foundational level skill sets for succeeding in federal government contracting. So the post I put out today was from the Program Executive Office in the Army. And the thing I want to point out is that whatever agency you're trying to sell to and you're doing business development, and I get asked this question a lot about how do I find decision makers and be able to identify who to talk to? Well, in there, it was the program or project leads. So program executive offices have a lot of projects under them. And the project leads or project managers, et cetera, from the government side are listed in there. And many of them have points of contact information like email and phone number. So go take a look at the one I did today. In there, they also have opportunity activity. And a lot of you are building out pipelines, especially if you're, let's say 5-10 million and beyond in your revenue stage, then you should have a really robust pipeline. And in these industry days, you often see very good insight into opportunities that are coming out. The one I posted today had opportunities coming out in 23, 24, 25. And this is why you hear a lot of us say the sales cycle is sometimes, 2-3 years. Well, it's just, it's no big deal. It just means you get started. You don't do a ton of work on those things that are in 2025. But anyways, you find them in the industry day slides. And I really want to encourage you, pick whatever agency you have and make sure you know where are those industry day slides being shared. Sometimes they're being shared through organizations like the GovCon Chamber co-hosts it with the government, and we share the slides. Sometimes the government just hosts it themselves and puts it out on sam.gov. Whatever it is, take the time to go find out where they're at. Okay, welcome. I'm Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. And every day we do these daily LinkedIn Lives as part of my federal market sales tips for you. Every day, 12 to 12:30. So if you've got topics, let me know. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the GovCon space. I still work actively in this space for some businesses just so I can always stay in the mix, right? I'm not just teaching you what I used to do. I'm teaching you what I do, and I constantly do process improvement. And that's the purpose of these daily LinkedIn Lives, is to teach you process and procedure that move forward. And in the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, we say that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. The process is A to Z. If you follow the steps between A and Z, you will achieve the success you're looking for. And as it relates to today, where I'm going to talk about the death to the PWin, the process really comes into capture. That's the area I'm talking about today. And so I'm going to share with you some tips I have around capture and the process. One thing to keep in mind, independent of what level you're at, this applies, right? This applies to your capture activity. So you could be at $1 billion firm and you should be looking in saying, do I really have measurable activity that I'm doing? Because in a $1 billion firm, you're still just one person. And that's one person is no different than somebody in a $10 million firm who's a capture or a capture manager within a small firm. And for firms below 10 million, more often than not, it's the business owner who is that chief salesperson. And so these tips follow up and down. If you're not making any revenue, you will do less of these tips, but it's very important for you to understand that the prime contractor you end up working with will be doing these type of activities in capture. And so the more you know about it, the more help you can be to them, which then implies the more value you have for them. So I'm excuse me, I am suffering with this allergy thing that's driving me nuts. So if you bear with me, you're going to have some great tips as we go forward. I say this over and over again, put in the comments or chat when you get a moment, put your company name and your core competency to make sure that we begin to see it, right? I want to know, it's funny, somebody put in workforce, right? I still remember that they put in workforce management, et cetera. The problem is I haven't seen it enough to remember what the company name is compared to Bayan Group, who comes onto these LinkedIn Lives pretty often. I know that they do SharePoint and Office 365. And so anytime I'm talking to somebody, I'll begin to have this in my mind. Well, I want you to have the same thing when you're potentially looking at teaming partners. So let's talk about what is PWin. PWin just stands for probability of win. Some people change the wording around a little bit, but basically probability of win. What's the chances we're going to win this opportunity? And that's it. I mean, that's from sticking to the basics. That's all a PWin is what's our chances of winning. The thing I don't like about PWins is that they're dangerous to the success of to sales success. They kind of provide, in my opinion, false information to leadership, and they provide a false sense of confidence, if you will, to us salespeople, capture leads in particular, that we look at the PWin and it keeps getting higher and higher, and we think, all right, we're going to win this. The challenge most of us have with PWins is that it's just a number we put in. It is a guess. It's not a scientific algorithm measurement that's in there. And so for most people, it's just a guess. I used to be a project manager doing a lot of government contracting and DOD in particular, a lot of Air Force and Army type contracts. And in there, we would do project meetings, and I would see people come in and what's the status of your project? Oh, it's excellent. It's doing good. It's in the green. How far along are you? We're 60%. I'm like, well, how are you judging that? Is it 60% of the work? Is it 60% of the value of the work, right? So just because you have 100 tasks and 60 are done doesn't mean you did 60% of the work. It just means you did 60% of the tasks. Does that mean that project is 60% of the way complete? And in capture and then sales, it's that same thing. If you have no metrics or basis behind a PWin and you're just choosing a number, then that number changes depending on which capture lead is giving it. It might go up to leadership and leadership pushes that number down, or maybe they raise it up, but it's still people just guessing, and I know that it's educated guessing, et cetera. But nowadays we could absolutely be automating this stuff, really saying the score is not decided by a person, it's decided by a system, a process. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But one thing I'm curious about is, like, do you see something similar to this, right? As you're watching this, do you see PWins that your company are doing or that maybe you're engaged in? Is it more of a sophisticated guess, right? Or is it something more, right? So let me know in the chat if you feel comfortable doing that. Anyways, so the reason I say PWins are no good, though, is because probability of win really comes down to how many proposals were submitted to the government. If 5 proposals, apparently 4, if 4 proposals are submitted to the government, then your probability of winning is 25%. It does not change. I don't care how great you think your proposal is. I've gone up against incumbents left and right on large $10, $50 million contracts where people are like, the incumbent's in there. It doesn't mean they're writing smartly. Like, an incumbent might give themselves a higher PWin because they're the incumbent. But did they take the time to understand the government's challenges today, or are they so busy doing the work that they didn't actually understand the true challenges and the true objectives? Did they operate on their own assumption of what's going on in that agency because they're the incumbent? Or did they actually do the capture activity to look at it from an outside perspective? This is one of the best ways us salespeople who are not the incumbent can win, is we go in there and truly understand what the challenges and objectives are. Anyway, so all those type of things fit into whether you're going to win or not. And so you can't tell me that you've got the best price. You have no idea what other people's prices are. I love it with like competitive research, all this kind of stuff. It's all just guessing when you try to put a number to it without any true metrics behind it. And I'll talk about the winning proposal score in a minute, which is the metric. But so anyways, a PWin is just 1 out of 4, 25% PWin, right? I don't care what percentage you want it to be, but there's no way you should not be winning 1 out of every 4 proposals you submit if you submit only in your core competency, right? And so that's something to keep in mind. It's a whole separate LinkedIn Live we'll do. But so if you think about a probability of winning, PWin, it's there. What I want to do and what I want to know when I'm measuring capture managers, capture leads, business developers who are engaged in it, et cetera. What I want us to know with our pipeline is what is the chance that I will submit to the government a winning proposal. And people go, oh, you couldn't know whether your proposal is winning. Yeah, I can. In the debrief, they will tell me your proposal was awesome, but we went with these other people because of this. I want a winning proposal is one that the government struggles with. They're like, do I go company A, company B, company A, B, C? It means those A, B, C companies all submitted winning proposals. And now the government has to make the hard decision of which one do I choose, because I'm only going to award to one. And then they whittle it down on their criteria, et cetera. So for me, it's less about a PWin. What's our probability of winning? I can't really control that. The number of people submitting a proposal is up to the world, the universe. But I can sure control whether I submit a winning proposal. You might be able to relate to this from a winning proposal standpoint, is that if you're submitting a proposal, I mentioned Bain Group earlier, so let me use them. If you're submitting a proposal that is SharePoint, which is what they're expert at, or Office 365, if they're doing that, then they should be able to have a much higher chance of writing a winning proposal, all other elements aside for a second, just on the core competency, than if they went, well, look at that. There's Oracle development, and we do SharePoint development. That's just development of development. Let's just go to the Oracle one. For those of you who don't know, Oracle is an entirely different platform. It's like saying that if you can drive trains, or if you can fly kites, you can fly a plane. It's like, no, they don't even match. And so if they try to write an Oracle-based proposal, the likelihood of it being a winning one goes way down. So this is something I want to introduce you to today, is winning proposal score, or WPS, right? The winning proposal score is something that allows me to measure my activities as a capture person. That am I doing the activities that will lead to a winning proposal? It's a proposal that sits on the contracting officer's desk, and they struggle to sit there and decide whether to award it to me or to my competitor, right? But whatever it is, they would feel very confident awarding it to me. If they would feel confident awarding it to me, then it's a winning proposal. If they wouldn't, then it's not a winning proposal. And you learn about that in debriefs afterwards. You get better and better at it. So when you come back to this winning proposal score, and I began to write some stuff down because I wanted to guide it forward, because this is a different way of thinking, right? No PWin, think about the winning proposal score. And one thing I want to say is that I'm talking about activity that a company or a capture manager would do to create a winning proposal together with the proposal team, et cetera. This is not a process, right? Ironically, I talk about process all the time, but in this part of the process, the pieces that I'm talking about are the procedure steps, right? And I'll explain this in a minute, but a winning proposal score is about making sure I'm doing the right activities. So many of us hear about Shipley and all these other things, and they always drove me nuts, because if you ever see a Shipley chart, it's just got so much. And people will tell you, oh, just, break it down so it fits for you. I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to do that? Like, I don't know what's there. The reason I like the winning proposal score is because a more mature or larger company can begin to improve it as they have more and more people to improve it up. They can improve it up. Compared to if you look at Shipley, you have to whittle all this stuff away, and you got to make sure you're not getting rid of something. What I'm going to give you is something you could use as a small business right now, or you could use this if you're a large capture. So it measures specifically how likely a proposal is going to be to win. And I use a scale of 100. So I want 100 points in order for it to, a 100 means I'm winning that thing once out of every 4 times. Remember that PWin is how many times do I expect to win? My win rate is going to be 25% or 30% or 20%, whatever. But 1 out of every 4 I plan on winning. That means when I look at this scale, if I have a 100 rating, then the likelihood of me winning that is very, very good, but it guaranteed is a winning proposal. It could win among competition. So when you think about a winning proposal score, a PWin generally is just like one number of field. Here, it's a winning proposal score. It's based on a bunch of categories of data. And so it's calculating a score. I use this as a way to calculate a score based on numbers assigned to certain tasks within certain categories of capture activity. And all of this is weighted. And so depending on what you're working on, the score value to the overall winning proposal score will be higher. And I know this sounds a little complex at the moment. I'll begin to break it down. But the idea is that I use a scale of 100 points. I divide it among all these capture activities. And if I do all this stuff, it will achieve this amount of points, which theoretically leads to a winning proposal. So, and I'm just tracking my time because I can go off on tangents. So let me break down the winning proposal score categories I have right now, right? This is not meant to be all inclusive. In your company, you could add something, take something away, but this is general industry standard activity. And so in a capture activity, there's certain activities we should be doing. Some opportunities have less time for you to do capture. And I don't really care about that because that's the one-off. Typically, though, an opportunity comes out or comes into your pipeline and you go through this set of activity that is leading it to proposal writing, that's leading it to winning. And so the breakdown of the categories that I would work on a capture activity are agency understanding, customer understanding, requirements understanding, core competency match, matching to my core competency, past performance experience, competition, what does that look like, pricing, staffing, and teaming partners. So let me walk those through a little bit here. I said agency understanding and customer understanding. To me, two different things. So the customer, I'll back from there. Most of us think about the customer, right? Customer understanding is understanding this program executive office or this program office, excuse me. And so remember I talked at the beginning of this session that there's a Army's PEO, I think it's C3T that I put out today, but inside there, they have project teams. That PEO or the project team below it might actually have all the requirements I have. They have their own mission, what they're trying to accomplish. What does this program executive office do as it relates to the Army's mission? What are their own goals and objectives within the program office or the program executive office, right? That's the customer. When I think about the customer, it's the program office that we typically hear. I add another category to this capture effort is I'm saying, how well do I understand the agency? So in this case, the Army. How well do I understand the Army and PEO C3T's connection to the Army? How do they fit into the Army's strategy? Do I have interaction with strategic leaders or influencers within the Army? So that's this idea, these two categories, is understanding the agency. Do I understand the Army's mission, their goals, their objectives, their challenges? And then bringing that down to the program office, to similar things. Do I understand theirs? When I do, and I'm getting ready to write a winning proposal, I have a true understanding. And so, excuse me, those are all built with tasks. And I'll come back and give you one example of all these of the next level down. Like, what are the activities in an agency understanding category? There's 6 of them, right? So everything has 6, and I'll show you. So agency understanding, customer understanding, that's the agency and the program office. Below that's requirement understanding. How well do I understand the requirements? Think about this. How well can you understand the customer's requirements if there's no draft PWS, right? I use something called a requirements gap analysis that I take the performance work statement and I put it all into a spreadsheet, and then a team will look at those requirements and the explanation of each task area and decide what score do we give ourselves for each task. Sometimes these spreadsheets have like 100 rows to them. So it's really understanding the depth of the scope of work. And so we dig into that. That's a PWS, but I also might want to be talking with the program office and say, what do you see the requirements as? There's other ways that I give myself extra points in this winning proposal score is if I'm in there early enough that I'm having dialogue and it's shaping the opportunity. If I can shape the scope, remember I talked about Oracle software development or SharePoint. Well, Bay and Group should get in there early on and convince them that, look, I know you're thinking Oracle, but you already own SharePoint. Most of your users are very familiar with it. The training cost and adoption would be much lower. Why don't we move that over? If you can get them to move off of one platform and over to another like that, that is massive influence. That is going to increase your winning proposal score. So core competency alignment is another category. This one is about if my core competencies are cloud and data, then how much do those align to this opportunity that I'm looking at? And so when I look at the requirements, I can't be trying to figure out how I fit in there. I'm trying to decide this is a slam dunk. I mean, they wrote that thing, and the only thing they needed to put on top of it was, hey, this is really for Neil, right? If you see an opportunity like that, now you have strong core competency alignment. And when you have breakdowns in the categories, you can decide how much do these core competencies really align. Another big reason that I use that field is because it also communicates pretty quickly to me, I should probably find a prime teaming partner. I still want to go after it. These two task areas look great, but the reality is I'm a better sub on this one than a prime, which is fine. So then past performance, I'm going to use that as the breakdown example. Competition. Teaming partners is the last one. I just want to mention that one is teaming partners is as you go through the categories of trying to have a winning proposal score that incrementally is coming up based on my activities, not just based on my wish or thought. Have I identified the need for teaming partners, right? That's one small score. My score increases in this teaming partner category when I've identified the need, and then I've identified potential teaming partners, then I got NDAs in place, then I got TAs in place, right? The final one is when I've got enough teaming partners to knock it out of the park, right? To be able to cover down on all the requirements. So that's teaming partners. I wanted to use an example of scoring the past performance. And by the way, if this is making sense, give it a thumbs up or something. Let me know so I can track on it. I appreciate Robin. This is such good information. Thank you. This one I'm really passionate about is having measurements to my activities, having clear activities that have definitions of done. So I was going to use an example of a scoring. When I talk about winning proposal score, I have those WPS categories, and inside each categories, there's this escalation of points. And so I'll use past performance as an example. The first one is I get 0 points in past performance if I have no experience with the tasks or the agency. And the reality is you never should get 0 points, because if you got 0 points, you should just get out of that opportunity. So the next one up is I have some experience with some of the task areas. I'll give myself 3 points. And what this means is obviously some of the task areas, if there's 5, I got 2, let's say, but I have some experience with it. It's not strong experience. This is another flag for me. I'm like, well, then maybe I don't have good core competency alignment, right? No bidding is just as important as bidding. In fact, it's probably more important. The next level up from no experience to some experience is solid experience with some task areas. I'll give myself 6 points instead of the 3 I had a minute ago. And so this is solid experience with task order 1 and 3 and whatever else in the other ones. I'm like, those ones I can knock it out of the park. The next point above that is solid experience with most task areas. So when I look at the task areas, I give myself 9 points now based on the fact that, look, 4 out of those 5 task areas, I knock it out of the park. It's like, okay, well, then that's perfect. And you don't have to knock it all out of the park, right? Because you can get a teaming partner. So I give myself 9 points if I have solid experience with most task areas. So now we come up to the last 2 point areas. I'm going up to 15 points. So the next one is I have 1 exact past performance in this agency for this opportunity. And then I have 2 relatable ones in other agencies. Typically in an opportunity, they look for 3 past performances. And so here, what I'm saying is I'm going to give myself 12 points now if I have 1 exact past performance within this agency that they're going to love, and I have 2 others in unrelated agencies. And then the last one is I have 3 past performances that are exactly like this contract and in this agency. I'll give myself 15 points. So for example, with me, in my past company, I had easily 3 exact past performances that were 5 million or more for the type of work I did in the Air Force, right? So I was able to really just knock it out. I understand you guys, and I've got experience doing it with you, kind of thing. Well, I get 15 points. And so that's me maxing out the points for scoring on the past performance. What this does, like as you saw me go through, is it helps me understand what the task areas are. If I had shown you some others, right, this one is me having to research our experience. Where are we related to the the work that's being done. But other categories I have, like customer understanding, my points incrementally increase when I meet with a program office. When I meet with a program office several times, I get more points. When the program office is discussing the requirements with me in depth. And then the last one is like when the program office is taking my recommendations and implementing them in their PWS. Now I'm shaping the opportunity and I max out points on there, which then is communicating, rolling up to this winning proposal score. A big thing for me as a previous small business owner or leader is that when I look down into my pipeline from other people's efforts, I want to know there's consistency of how they're doing their capture activity, how you're doing your capture activity, so that I can count on the pipeline's data to accurately reflect the money that I'm going to get going forward. And that's why it's important for all of us, I think, to focus more on a winning proposal score, a score that tells us whether we're going to be submitting a proposal that is sure to win every fair amount of time, right? Every so often we are sure to win, but we'll never be like, you guys are no good for this. They'll always love it, but sometimes they won't award it to us. That's a winning proposal score. The PWin's just a number, but a winning proposal score is not only a measurement of my activities, but when you look into the drop-down menus of a winning proposal score, it's actually telling you, what do you need to do? What do you need to do to move this to 100 points to just knock it out of the park and win? So I hope that made sense. Let me know if there's questions in here. I'm trying to look back at the chat. I think I covered everything that was there that I wanted to cover today. But remember, it's a winning proposal score is what I want you to think about. What are the activities we're doing to make sure my proposal is going to win? Our proposal is going to win. I want your proposal to win. I'm going to scroll here really quick. There you go, winning proposal scores. Okay, taking a look at it. If you have questions, you can let me know. If you found this content valuable today, would you please just give it a thumbs up so other people find it? It's a good little thank you to me for coming here today, but it's also a great way to let other people know about the tip I shared today. Remember, government contracting, it's not a secret, it's just a process. Part of the process is coming back on Monday for the next video. I'll see you then.